everyone, Rachel here. I am back with some product management content like I mentioned in my last video. One of the most common LinkedIn requests that I get from students or other people early on in their career is how I got started in product management. And so today I wanted to scale myself and answer some of those questions to help some of those aspiring product managers. But before we get started in the questions, something is not right because I am not usually dressed up like this when I am in my product manager persona. I am often actually working from home, trying to live out my best cozy techfluencer lifestyle, and I'm often wearing something a lot more cozy. And so what I need to do is switch up into my Oodie, which the Oodie sent me, and I am so excited. There are a few moments in your YouTube life where you feel like, hey, I've made it. And honestly, this was one of them for me because I am such a big fan of the Oodie. I already have a couple of my own, and I was super excited to collaborate with them and receive this new Snoopy Oodie. It is super warm, it's soft, it's cozy, I love it. Winter is coming up and I'm going to be spending all of winter working from home in this, so let's get this on now before I can start talking properly about product management. Look at how cute I look! If you're ramping up for winter as well and want to get an Oodie for yourself, use my discount code because you're going to get it off at a great value price on top of what it already is. And let's get back to the questions. So I'll be answering a couple of the most common ones today. The first thing I'm going to answer is, what does a product manager actually do? That is a very good question because, like I said, when I first started and I'd even done an internship in product management, I still didn't really know what a product manager did. I have quite a detailed video explaining all the roles and responsibilities of a product manager, which I will link here. But to give it to you in a nutshell, I think what a product manager does is wear a lot of different hats across the business, and they do whatever it takes to own that product. So they will be working closely with design, engineering, and data to build a product together. And that product could be a physical product or it could be a software product, which is what I am most often working in. The product manager will define the strategy and vision for that product, like what do we want this thing to become? For example, if I was a product manager for Oodie, I would be thinking about what is the future of the Oodie product? Do we continue down the line of these like cozy blanket hoodies? Do we go down a sleepwear line? Do we go into the realm of outdoor or like beachwear, which is all things that they have currently got? And then they would prioritize based on what they're working towards. What are the problems that they need to solve, or what are the next set of features that they need to build in order to realize that vision into a roadmap? The product manager would need to understand the customer perspective by conducting customer interviews and also understanding the business model by speaking to various stakeholders within the business, and then trying to kind of like merge that all together into something that satisfies everyone. So in a way, a product manager is kind of like a people pleaser, but at the same time, you need to say no to a lot of people. And I think some of the best product managers are the ones who upset groups of people. And then on a more tactical day-to-day, that product manager would be speccing out experiences to be built, identifying what is the problem that's trying to be solved, what are those journeys, what are the user stories. They would measure success on features that have already been rolled out, and generally fill in the gap for anything else that needs to happen around you, whether it is putting on your go-to-market product marketing managing hat to write comms, or reaching out to customers to do research, or creating and reading dashboards to understand the metrics in the business. So there is such a vast range of what a product manager actually does, which is why I think it is confusing to kind of summarize in a nutshell. But the most important thing is that they're driving the journey of the product that they are managing or owning. So what inspired you to pursue product management, and how did you get started in this career? For me, my journey started really early on in high school. I think I always wanted to be within the tech industry. It was an exciting and new space at the time when I was in high school. Part of me also wanted to really challenge myself because I think that tech was seen as this thing that was very male dominated. There weren't a lot of women in tech, and I've always had this thing where I want to prove myself and prove that as a woman I can do as much as men can as well, and even better. And so there was a challenging aspect to that which I wanted to undertake and like really prove that I could be this person that could do anything. That being said, I wasn't super interested in coding. I didn't have much experience in design either, although I had started trying to learn about it more and building a portfolio. But I was always very good at business, especially in high school. I only started learning about product management when I was looking at internships in the tech industry. And then I landed on this intern position that was product management, and I was like, this is the fusion of business and technology, but you're working within that R&D space and you get to really experience the end-to-end journey of building something. It all sounded really interesting to me. I was kind of like, this is exactly what I want to do. I want to be within that space. I really like this idea of having ownership over what we built next in a product and defining what that path looked like. Maybe because Lucas calls me bossy all the time, that could be part of why this role really spoke to me. In terms of how I got started, I was lucky to be part of a scholarship program at uni where we got work placements in different companies. And one of my first placements was at CBA as a business analyst within their digital team. I enjoyed what I did. I thought it was really fun. And I noticed that there was this concept of this product owner who would kind of be within our team talking about strategy and things, but then they wouldn't be there day to day. And I was quite curious about who they were and what they did. So I think it can be quite confusing. What is the difference between a business analyst, a product owner, and a product manager? So to hopefully shed some light on that, a business analyst often works more in the tactical, day-to-day of running each of the sprints when you are operating under an agile framework. So that business analyst is often doing things like running the sprints, writing user stories, writing acceptance criteria, translating a lot of the work that needs to be done into executable tickets for the engineering team. But then I think the product owner is someone who has a bit more of that bigger picture thinking in terms of the product overall and what needs to be built. So they are someone who is defining strategy and then thinking about what does our team need to build next holistically. The difference between a product owner and a product manager for me is super fuzzy, because in Atlassian, we do not have product owners, we just have product managers, we don't have BAs either. So my assumption is that the product manager kind of does everything that they need to, from the tactical execution to thinking about the strategy, the direction, and just making sure that all the pieces are fit together. That was a really long ramble, but to answer the second part of the question of how I got started in my career, after I had done those internships, I then ended up getting an internship, luckily, at Atlassian. I think I was I would say lucky, but also not. It wasn't really luck, because I want to take ownership over my actions, and it was always something that I had looked into that I knew I wanted to do, and I worked my way to get that internship into the APM program, which I believe Atlassian has one of the best APM programs in Australia. So if you are Australian based trying to get into product management as a grad, I heavily suggest looking into that program, because it is set up in a way that the previous APMs will run it and try to improve it year on year with the things that they wish that they had learnt, and introducing you to the right people across the business and kind of building that very strong support network. So it is honestly a really amazing program, and maybe I can talk more about APM programs specifically later on, but let me know in the comments if you want me to do a video on that separately. Third question, what are some of the main challenges you faced getting into product management, and how did you overcome them? So I'm going to answer this in the way of what are some of the challenges when I got started early on in product management. I'm not sure if that is the question that was being asked, but if it was different, please let me know in the comments. I think I'll probably call out 3 things that I found quite challenging as an early product manager. Firstly, it was challenging to build trust and credibility as a nobody, because I'm essentially coming in without any experience. I felt like I was someone who came into product management And as a product manager, in a way, although you are not managing anyone specifically, you are part of that leadership triad for your team. So there is a lot of leadership responsibility on you right from the get-go. And for me, that was quite difficult to navigate initially because I had all these senior engineers on my team who'd been working in the industry for years and years. And here I was coming in with like 3 months of experience from my intern program and being expected to drive that vision. I found myself in the early days questioning myself a lot. But the biggest thing that I learned from that was it still does take time for you to soak in knowledge and context and build that confidence. I think it was only maybe 2 years in on a stable team where I really started feeling like I knew what I was doing. Within those first 2 years though, I think the thing that helped me best overcome that feeling of not having trust or credibility was actually my unique position to be able to bring in a customer voice to the rest of my team. As a product manager, you are representing the customer for your team, and your team of engineers probably does not have the time to be speaking to customers all the time. And that is often your role as a product manager, to understand what kind of feedback is coming in, what kind of behavior customers are exhibiting. And so I spent a lot of time in my early days running customer interviews, trying to understand how people perceive our product. And I found that would be a great backing as evidence for me to come into a conversation with a bunch of more senior people and be like, this isn't coming from me as an opinion or like my product experience, but this is what I'm hearing from our customers. And that served as a unique value add to a conversation, as opposed to just me being like, I think we should build this thing just because, like, I don't have any reason. I just feel the vibe, you know? The second thing I found challenging as an early product manager was identifying what was actually my role and what was I supposed to be doing every day. I think the interesting thing about product management is that you're not really, no one's expecting you to do anything. And as an engineer or as a designer, I think there may be a bit more clarity there, because it's almost like with engineers, they have tickets on a sprint board and they're picking each of those up each week, and that's filling up their week in terms of what they need to be working on. For a product manager, there is no board out there that you are picking tickets off to work on. Instead, you probably have this like never-ending to-do list of things that you could be doing, but it's really important for you to prioritize what do you think are the most important things that you need to be doing that week. And I found that really challenging in my first few years, because I was like, I don't know, I could be doing anything or I could be doing nothing right now. Like, no one's waiting for me unless there is a deadline, or like the devs are like, we don't have work. No one's waiting for me to do something. So my day kind of just needed to be filled up with what I thought was important. Some of the early things you can do when you're starting in your first week could be things like doing a secret shopper of the product that you're managing, speaking to customers and holding some customer interviews, speaking to stakeholders around the business to build context, playing with the product and doing a demo of it. But then once that never-ending to-do list is created, what I found really helpful were I actually started running my own sprints, and I used a Jira board at first for that. And each of those columns would be my backlog, then my things that I wanted to do that week in my sprint, then things that were in progress, which I would only ever max out to 3 a day, then things that needed to be sparred or discussed with someone else, and then things that were completed. And that really helped me in terms of figuring out what I wanted to focus on in that week, but then also what were my primary 3 things that I needed to think about in that day. The second thing that I found useful was that I had this page where every Monday I would go in and write my weekly priorities. And I would split my time by those priorities. It would be split by something that would take 50% of my time, then 30% of my time, then 20% of my time. And then I would have another row underneath that that would say, things that were out of scope for the week. So I wasn't focusing on them for now, but they may be on my radar for later. And I was making a very intentional decision for that week, not for those to be my focuses, because maybe they just weren't that important that week. I found those things really, really useful, and I would keep that weekly priorities page public as well in case anyone asked me, what was I focusing on that week? It was very easy for them to access and see. The last challenge that I want to talk about as an early product manager is one that I still struggle with today, and that's forming an opinion and sticking to that opinion. I think this one is really, really difficult, and I still have issues with this, probably because I am a people pleaser. And like I said at the beginning of this video, not all good product managers are people pleasers, because what ends up happening is if everyone has a different opinion, you kind of get this choice paralysis, and it becomes really hard for you to actually just form your own path forward, make a decision and go with it. I think it takes time, and I think it takes very deep thinking in terms of why you believe something to be true. What are the knowns that you have at that time? Because I've had experiences in the past where, for example, I had a very opinionated designer and a very opinionated manager who was a product manager as well, and they were both extremely, extremely smart, but sometimes they disagreed on things. And I would talk to my designer and he would be like, I believe in X. And then I would be like, you know what? That's right. He's really smart. And then I would go back to my manager and he would be like, I disagree with that because why? And I'm like, you know what? That is also very smart. Let's go with that. And then I would go back to the designer and back and forth. And I would always be caught in this place where I'm kind of like, both sides make sense. So what do I do? One of the things I learned from this is I think it is okay to sway your opinion if new information is surfaced that you weren't aware of before, because that actually then serves as an input for you to make a reformed opinion. And maybe it backs your opinion, or maybe you have a counter to that. But I think that is okay. I think what isn't okay is just taking what someone says at face value and being like, you know what, you're right, let's go with that. And then flip-flopping all the time because you kind of just haven't done the deep thinking for yourself. Next question. What skills or qualities do you believe are most essential for success in product management, especially for someone who is just starting out like me? So again, I want to talk about 3 really important skills or qualities that product managers have early on. So the first thing is customer centricity and empathy. I think that it is super, super important to be putting yourself in the shoes of your customer and putting yourself in the shoes of your business as well, and having this desire to deeply understand what users are saying, why they're saying those things, what problems that they are encountering, and really feel that pain of the problems that they need to be solved. Because once you can grasp that and why they are feeling that pain and in what situations, then you're able to actually build out a very effective solution for them. The second most important thing, and I think this is the same for any kind of role that is just a people role, is communication. It is so, so important to have an effective sense of communication, both in written communication and in spoken, because that is what helps you build trust in the people around you. That doesn't mean you have to be this amazing presenter and speaker straight away. It just might mean you need to find the ways that you most effectively communicate, whether that be figuring out, hey, I don't really communicate that well on the spot. So instead taking the time to prepare a little bit more before you have some of those more important conversations and write down the notes that you want to hit, or write a little script down of what you want to be speaking about with someone else. Or whether it's like you figure out, I'm really, really good at writing things down and communicating in that way. And maybe more of your communication is done through a page rather than through a meeting. The third skill I think would be really important for early product managers is the ability to make a decision. One of the things that we say is that making a wrong decision is often better than making no decision at all. And you learn a lot about decision making when you are a product manager in different experiences, whether that is asking yourself, is this a one-way decision or is this a decision that is easily reversible? What's the impact of this decision? And I found that once you have evaluated the decision that you have to make, sometimes just picking one and learning from it is much better than trying to spend weeks or months of research figuring out what is the perfect decision, because that is an opportunity cost where whilst people are waiting on you to make that decision, other people aren't doing anything and they're just kind of sitting there waiting and being like, I'm blocked because Rachel owes me a decision on this thing. And sometimes it's better to just move and learn and be like, okay, we took the steps to learn from that and it might have been the wrong decision, but now we know very quickly that we need to flip and do the other thing. So I think that it is really important to be able to have a bit of that courage and that lack of fear from failure to be able to make those decisions. And last question for today, are there any courses or resources you recommend for someone looking to learn more about product management? I think, in my opinion, the best way to learn is just by doing it. Everyone has different ways that they like to learn. I have always found that I've been able to be a better product manager just by doing and shipping things and learning from them. I have done courses in the past. Reforge was a course I did. I think it is quite good if you are a completely new product manager and you want to learn all the basics or like the foundations. I have found courses a little bit difficult to follow because it always is quite theoretical, and then when you put things into practice, they end up being quite different. So I am not always sure if courses are the best way to go. I do quite frequently listen to Lenny's podcast, which I think is so helpful for learning about product management because he often gets very key people within the industry to interview and talk about very specific topics in the product craft. And so I've always found that I'll be listening to a podcast about like storytelling or about setting strategy or interviewing customers. And I'm always reflecting as I'm listening on, hey, there's a situation that I have in my role at work right now. How could I apply what they're saying here into that situation? And then lastly, keep watching this channel, I guess. Like, I'm going to try talk more and more about these sorts of topics. And so hopefully this will serve as a helpful resource for people moving forward. So yeah, I feel like I've talked so much that my throat hurts and my wallpaper disappeared. But that is all I have for today. I hope you found this useful. If you have more questions, please do reach out for me because it is always super helpful to have more ideas for content in the future. So DM me on Instagram at HeyLinny or email me at heylinny@gmail.com. If you're looking forward to more videos like this, make sure you like, comment, subscribe. And I can't wait to see you all again. So thank you for listening.